What is up, my friends? Today I'm making a video about a Spider-Man series that kind of just came and went, and after it finished, I've just sat and thought about it, and I haven't heard many people talk about it, and it's kind of blowing my mind because this was one of the best Spider-Man projects that I've ever seen.
They love me.
I'm talking about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. This is from Marvel Studios and produced by Marvel Studios Animation, and it was created by Jeff Trammell. And my biggest question is anybody watching this show? Did anybody watch this show? Because I got done with it, and I was like, what the hell, man? That was so freaking good. I'm a fan of the original Spider-Man animated series, and I'm just an all-around Spider-Man fan. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I am some sort of a Spidey genius or anything. I'm really not caught up with the comic books. I don't know everything there is to know about the character, but as far as movies and television, anything that's come out on screen, I'm pretty much caught up with, and I love the character so much, and to see it done so well in this series was something that I both didn't expect and didn't know that I needed in my life so much. I made a reaction to the first batch of episodes that came out, and I was really excited about it, but I think the thing that I was most taken by was the fact that this was sort of a play on Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man. That's something that I didn't expect, because when it was first announced, it was Spider-Man freshman year, and I was very much under the impression that this was going to be a Tom Holland origin story animated series that was going to plug right into the MCU and kind of catch us all up to speed on his origin story, since they decided not to tell that in live action. And let's be honest, we didn't need that anyway. We've all seen the origin story. We know what it is by now. But then, very much like you hear with a lot of the other Marvel projects, there was some sort of creative overhaul and things got changed, and it became Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And when that happened, I didn't really do my research on it. I didn't look into it that much. I just kind of made an assumption that this was not going to be associated with the MCU now. This was going to be a completely separate iteration. Maybe it's going to be in a different universe that'll show up down the road. We are dealing with the multiverse here, so that could be something that's fun, but I did not think at all that it was going to be some sort of a play on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And so, much to my surprise and delight upon turning on the first episode, that's exactly what we got. It had musical cues from Civil War, a lot of that introduction to Tom Holland to the MCU and the Tony Stark, and you had the parallel to Tony Stark and Norman Osborn. It was so much fun. It brought back so many feelings of the introduction of Spider-Man, but then it told its own story, and it told this story that I think a lot of us wanted from Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Not to say that they didn't plug him in well and give him some great movies. It's just when you think about Spider-Man, you picture him doing all these stuff, as well as you picture these iconic villains. Vulture in live action was cool, Mysterio in live action was cool, and then we got all these variants of different villains in Spider-Man No Way Home. But when we're watching this show, we're starting to see all of the little ingredients that make this story so special come to life, and that includes Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn. And living in this world that has Oscorp, living in this world that has Dr. Connors or Otto Octavius, you get the feeling while watching this that you are, and I don't know if this makes sense, but it sure as hell makes sense to me, you get the feeling that you're watching Spider-Man. This isn't Spider-Man with an MCU twist or Spider-Man with an MCU flair. This is a Spider-Man series taking place in a universe that is fun, that is different, that is new, and it's telling us new stories in a cool way while honoring the past. Let's just take Otto Octavius, for example. Look at the aesthetic of this character. Look at what he looks like. That is so freaking original to everything that we know about the character. It was such a fun little version of the character, but it's also the version of the character that I would love to get an action figure to, although I already have several. I also really like how they're very seemingly taking their time with the story. They're introducing Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn. Perfect cast. I'm obsessed with Coleman Domingo right now, dude. He should have won Best Actor last year, but he's such a great voice for this character. He's so menacing. He could potentially pop up in live action later down the road, and I think it would work really well. But as for this, they're clearly going to use him and set him up and set this whole thing up to lead into some sort of Sinister Six. It's going to give us a lot of the Spider-Man stuff that we love so much. I also thought Harry Osborn was really cool. I thought the addition of Tombstone was a really fun idea. At the the end with his fingers like becoming all pale and white. That was just such a fun nod to the fans and also growing for the future, like adding all of these different elements. But the heart and soul of this entire series clearly is Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and we get Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And I know I talked about this a little bit, but it was just so much fun seeing him have kind of a more natural origin, because it was cool to see him in the MCU, but that takes place during this character's age that is like a crucial point for him growing. And seeing him go through the MCU, Civil War, Endgame, Infinity War, he was very much paying attention to becoming an Avenger. He was looking up to Tony Stark and Captain America, and purely just more focused on saving the world. But what happens when you take this version of Peter Parker and you put him in a more traditional format, a more traditional story? In another universe, this version of Peter Parker is just kind of going through some crazy shit, but some crazy Spider-Man shit. I freaking loved it, and I know that it's animated, and so it might not garner the audience that maybe a live-action project would, but I just think that this series is doing a lot for Tom Holland Spider-Man fans, as well as the Amazing Spider-Man fans, even Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fans, as well as animated series fans, as well as comic book fans. It's throwing all of these ingredients together in a modern setting and giving Spider-Man the story that I think that we need right now, collectively. Right now, everybody is begging for Spider-Man 4 to be a more grounded take on the character, to be like set in New York City, maybe have him work a little bit with Daredevil, have Kingpin be at the center of it, but instead they're saying that it's probably going to be multiversal again, because you have Spider-Man again tied to the MCU. Whatever the hell is happening in the MCU, Tom Holland's Spider-Man is now an integral part of all of that. And he's also a pretty highly billed actor. He's a draw for the studio, so you have to have him in the Avengers films. And that right there just kind of takes away from this origin story that we wish that we could see. This series takes care of that. This series is operating on a different level. It's showing us Oscorp, it's showing us love interests and teenage problems, but it's also going to show his development as we head towards some crazier things down the road. It also plays with things like Doctor Strange. I mentioned Daredevil, but it was so much fun seeing Daredevil voiced by freaking Charlie Cox, you know what I mean? I just thought it was a really great time. I found it to be a very special series. You might disagree with me on that. Maybe a lot of people watch this and they just weren't that into it. I don't know. It just hit that perfect Spider-Man vibe for me. It had the Spider-Man energy. It checked all the boxes that I'm looking for. And by the end of the series, I was just wanting more. I think that they're developing a season 2. I hope they're developing a season 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And this kind of just becomes our modern day Spider-Man animated series. I am very curious to know what you guys thought about this series. I'm not going to do a deep dive on the plot or anything. I really just wanted to come on today and talk about how much I love this show. And that's basically the point. That's the entire point of the video. I loved your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That's it. That's really all I have to say.